The black cat theory. Why being unattainable is better than being pretty the moment you stop needing them. The moment you stop needing them. That's when they couldn't stop thinking about you. You didn't change your looks. You didn't text more. You didn't post a thirst trap or get a dramatic haircut. You just pulled back, and suddenly they were everywhere. That's not a coincidence. That's the black cat theory. And once you understand it, you'll never approach attraction the same way again. The frustration nobody talks about, honestly. You've been there. You met someone who made your brain short-circuit. You were interesting, genuinely interested in them. So you texted first. You liked their posts. You made yourself available. Because that's what you're supposed to do when you care about someone, right? And then nothing. Or worse, they were warm when it suited them and cold the rest of the time. Meanwhile, you watched them chase someone who barely gave them a second glance. You were told being open and present would work. It does in friendships, in careers, in most of life. But in early attraction, there's a hidden dynamic nobody wrote down for you. Scarcity is not cruelty. It's psychology. What the black cat theory actually is. Think about black cats. Mythologized. Mysterious. They move through the world like they belong to no one. They'll sit next to you, but only when they choose to. They're not cold. They're not playing games. They're just complete on their own. The black cat theory says this. Emotional self-containment is more magnetic than emotional availability. Not because games work, they don't long-term, but because people who are genuinely absorbed in their own lives, who don't orbit around others, who have their own gravity, create pull. And here's the part people miss. This isn't a strategy. The moment you're performing self-containment to attract someone, you've already lost it. What we're talking about is actually having a life that matters more to you than their approval does. That's it. That's the whole thing. The rest of this video is just showing you what that looks like in practice and why it works. Why this works, the actual science. 3 forces. None of them require you to be unkind. First, scarcity bias. The brain automatically assigns higher value to things that are less available. This isn't shallow, it's survival wiring. When something is everywhere, your brain files it under low priority. When it's rare, it gets flagged as significant. You're not exempt from this as a person. Second, the curiosity loop. When someone gives you just enough, but not everything, your brain opens a loop it needs to close. That loop is what keeps you thinking about them at 2 a.m. even when you're trying not to. Self-contained people create loops. Completely available people close them immediately. Third, perceived wholeness. People are drawn to those who seem to already have a full life because it signals they won't need to be rescued, managed, or constantly reassured. It says, I'm not here because I'm empty. I'm here because I chose to be. That's quietly the most powerful thing you can communicate. Golden Retriever versus Black Cat energy. Golden Retriever energy is warm, loyal, enthusiastic. In a committed relationship, it's extraordinary. In early-stage attraction, it can accidentally signal that you've already decided the outcome before the other person has had a chance to. Golden Retriever texts back in 30 seconds every time, agrees to every plan, is visibly crushed when you cancel, tells you how great you're on day 3. Black Cat takes a few hours sometimes, not to play games, but because they were genuinely busy living. They're fully present when they're with you, but their life exists independently of you, and you can feel that. One creates comfort, the other creates wanting, and the difference has nothing to do with how attractive you are. You can be warm and still be a mystery. Those two things are not mutually exclusive. What this looks like in the real world. Texting, you don't respond to every message the second it arrives, not as a tactic, but because you have a life. When you do reply, it's engaged and real. People notice the difference. Social media, you don't post for an audience of one. Your online presence reflects your actual life. Interesting, self-directed, not performing. There's a version of you that exists whether or not they're watching. Plans, you don't rearrange your entire week every time they're free. Your time has shape. When you do show up, it's a choice, and they can feel that it is. Emotional openness, you share what matters, but you reveal yourself slowly, like a good book, not a Wikipedia summary. People lean in when there's still something to discover. 3 things that actually make this real. 1. Build a life you're genuinely excited about. The most magnetic thing isn't a texting strategy. It's having somewhere to be, something you're building, people who light you up. That's not a tactic. That's a foundation. 2. Stop over-explaining yourself. Black cat energy is quiet confidence. You don't justify your decisions with a 14-message apology or preemptively defend your choices. You decide. You act. The explanation lives in your actions, not your words. 3. Be selective with your attention. Not cruel, selective. When you're fully present, it means something because it isn't automatic. That's a gift. Treat it like one. The last thing. Here's what nobody tells you about people who seem effortlessly magnetic. They're not trying to attract anyone. They're just living fully, intentionally on their own terms. And that life, that quiet self-assurance, creates gravity without them ever noticing. Pretty gets attention. Being completely, unapologetically yourself. That gets remembered. If this landed, share it with someone who needs to hear it.